A 65 billion real estate deal announced in October 2025, described as one of the largest private real estate investments ever publicly declared in Kenya, linked to the Tatu City Special Economic Zone. It was presented as a milestone for Kenya entrepreneurship and a bold statement of confidence in country's economic future. But whenever money of this scale enters a critical sector like real estate, legitimate public interest questions arise, not about guilt, but about transparency, oversight, and systems. Around the world, investigators and financial crime experts have repeatedly warned that real estate is among the most vulnerable sectors for laundering illicit funds due to high values, complex ownership structures, and limited disclosure requirements. In recent U.S. court filings, Kenya and Nairobi's Eastleigh area in particular has been referenced as part of a broader international investigations into how fraud proceeds from move across borders into property markets. Tonight, we are not making accusations and we are not putting anyone on trial. No court has found wrongdoing, no individual we discuss has been convicted of a crime. What we are doing is asking the questions that journalism exists and to ask before crises emerge, not after. Where does large capital come from? What checks are required by law? And are Kenya's safeguards strong enough to protect the integrity of one of the country's most important economic sectors? The 65 billion question: what Kenya's real estate deal reveals about money, transparency, and oversight. This is the 65 billion question inside Kenya's biggest real estate deal. Haya. In October 2025, Kenya witnessed what many described as a landmark economic announcement. A Kenyan developer, Abdul Hassan, announced plans to a 65 billion real estate investment linked to the Tatu City Special Economic Zone, one of the largest private real estate commitments ever publicly announced in the country. The project was framed as a symbol of ambition, confidence in Kenya's economy, and the growing role of local developers in mega projects. But large investments also raise legitimate public interest questions, not about guilt, but about process, transparency, and oversight. And those questions have become more pointed as the national investigators examine how illicit money can move across borders and where it is sometimes crimes ends up. And we're starting up with the first segment, where Kenya and why real estate. Around the world, real estate is recognized by financial crime experts as a high-risk sector for money laundering. The reasons are well documented: high-value transactions, complex ownership structures, limited disclosure of beneficial owners, weak source of funds verification in many jurisdictions. In recent years, U.S. federal prosecutors have described Kenya, and particularly Nairobi's Eastleigh area, in court filings as a destination where proceeds from international fraud schemes were moved and invested. This is not commentary, it is language contained in indictments and sworn out documents. Those cases do not accuse Kenya's real estate sector as a whole, but they do raise broader questions about how easily foreign money can end up properly in markets and how much scrutiny it faces once it is done. And segment 2, what U.S. court records show. And one U.S. indictment outlines how fraud proceeds were allegedly transferred from the United States into Kenya and invested in property. In that case, prosecutors allege that funds were moved through intermediaries. A stake was acquired in a Kenyan real estate company. Property purchases were made in Nairobi, including South Sea, and the importance of this case is not the individuals involved, it is the method. Investigators describe a system where illicit funds are converted into legitimate-looking assets through property acquisition. This has led journalists and regulators to examine whether Kenya's safeguards are sufficient, especially in rapidly developing areas. In segment 3, Eastleigh, a growth and questions. Eastleigh has transformed dramatically over the past decade. Once a low-rise commercial neighborhood, it is now dominated by high-density developments that appeared in a relatively short period of time. Urban planners, economists, and regulators have publicly acknowledged that development has outpaced infrastructure. Ownership structures are often opaque. Financing sources are rarely disclosed. None of this is illegal. But in the context of global financial crime investigations, Eastleigh has drawn attention as a case study in how cities grow and how money moves. Segment 4, Business Bay Square. This is BBS in Eastleigh, and a turning point and one of Eastleigh's most prominent developments in Business Bay Square Mall, a large commercial complex that significantly reshaped the area. The project brought in Abdiway Hassan into public view as a major real estate developer. Publicly available records show limited information about earlier development associated with Hassan prior to this project. That absence on its own does not imply wrongdoing. Many developers operate privately out of media coverage. However, in investigative journalism, scale and speed matter, and when a developer associated with a major Eastleigh project later announces a $65 billion investment, it invites questions about capital mobilization, questions that are standard in global business reporting. Segment 5, the $65 billion question. Industry experts know that projects of this scale typically involve syndicated bank financing, institutional investors, audited financial histories, long-term development track records. At the public signing event in October 2025, Mr. Hassan spoke about vision and impact, saying, BBS Mall changed how people viewed Eastleigh, showing that thoughtful development can reshape neighborhoods and improve how people live and work. It is a compelling development philosophy, but vision alone does not answer financial transparency question, particularly when the deal is described as the largest of its kind. Segment 6 is all about what is known and what is not known. To be absolutely clear, Abdiway Hassan has not been charged or convicted of any crime. No public indictment links him to fraud. No authority has declared the $65 billion investment illicit. The story does not allege wrongdoing. It asks due diligence questions that arise whenever money, scale, and public impact converge. Those questions include what regulatory checks apply to mega real estate investments. Question 2, are source of funds disclosure required, and how Kenyan Can regulators access cross-border capital, and are current safeguards adequate? And we have a small closing mark on the same segment that why this matters. Real estate shapes cities. It determines who can afford to live, work, and invest. When transparency is weak, markets can be distorted, whether by speculation, corruption, or illicit finance. Kenya's growth story depends not just on attracting capital, but on knowing where the capital comes from and ensuring confidence in the system. The 65 billion deal may prove to be a milestone of legitimate enterprise, but the broader question remains not about the individual, but about the system itself. Are Kenyans law strong enough to distinguish bold entrepreneurship from hidden risk? This is the 65 questions for developers that we have around this country. And from an industry perspective, how long does it typically take a developer to build the financial capacity required to mobilize 65 billion? And question 2, is it common for a developer to move from a single large commercial project directly into a mega deal of this scale? And question 3, what kind of track record do banks and institutional investors usually demand before bagging projects worth tens of billions? Question 4, in your experience, how transparent are developers usually about their capital sources when announcing deals of this magnitude? Would a developer without a long public history normally be able to access this level of funding without partners? And questions on financing and financial or capital structure. What are the standard funding models to large real estate developments in Kenya? Banks, syndicates, private equity, and foreign investors. Question 2, how unusual is it for financing details not to be publicly disclosed for the largest private deal in the country? And question 3, what role do offshore entities typically play in legitimate real estate financing? And where do regulators draw the line? And at what point does lack of disclosure move from being private business to systemic risk issue? And questions on easily and market dynamics. As developers, how do you explain the speed and scale of Eastleigh's transformation compared to other Nairobi neighborhoods? And do land prices and construction volumes in Eastleigh align with documented economic activity? Have you observed other cases where capital appears to enter the market without a feasible business backstory? Questions on industry and accountability. Should developers voluntarily disclose source of funds documentation for mega projects? And question 2 on the same. Would greater transparency protect legitimate developers from being unfairly lumped together with criminal activity? If explained capital drives prices up, who ultimately pays the cost? Developers, buyers, or the public developers? And a different question from an industry perspective, how long does it typically take a developer to build the financial capacity required to mobilize 65 billion? Is it common for a developer to move from a single large commercial project directly into a mega deal of this scale? And what kind of track record do banks and institutional investors usually demand before backing projects worth tens of billions? In your experience, how transparent are developers usually about the capital sources when announcing deals of this magnitude? Would a developer without a long public history normally be able to access this level of funding without partners? Questions on financing and capital structure. What are the standard funding models for large real estate developments in Kenya? Bank syndicates, private equity, foreign investors, and how usual is it for financing details not publicly disclosed for the largest private deal in the country? And what role do offshore entities typically play in legitimate and estate financing? And where do regulators draw the line? At point does lack of disclosure move from being private business to a systemic risk issue? And other questions on the dynamics of as developers, and how do you explain the speed and the scale of Eastleigh's transformation compared to Nairobi's neighborhood? And that brings us to the end of the 65 billion question, and this is inside the Kenya's biggest real estate deal. Coming up next, the bulletin. From education's attention from addressing the country's real economic challenges, he cited corruption, high taxes, and the rising cost of living as key issues that require urgent solutions. Kalonzo also raised concerns over claims that the Kenya Kwanza government may have strategies aimed at interfering with the electoral processes. However, government leaders have dismissed these allegations, insisting there is no plan to rig elections and pledging that all electoral procedures will be carried out transparently. Leaders allied to President William Ruto have defended his vision, saying the comparison with Singapore reflects an ambition to boost investment, create jobs, and stimulate economic growth, despite continued criticism from the opposition.
Hii ya kuliberate nchi yetu properly and to isolate viongozi ambao wanaongea uongo na to make the country believe kwamba what they are saying is true. First of all, mimi ni mwana diplomasia. You can't literally, because there's such a thing as equality of state. Hata kama nchi yako ni maskini, you cannot compare your country to another one. That is serious breach of protocol. I'm quite sure watu wa Singapore are themselves embarrassed. What William Ruto should have started by saying, ni yale Kibaki tulipanga na yeye on Vision 2030. Aongei hayo, hata katika issues zao ya bottom up, sijui hustler, because this thing about Singapore is a diversionary tactic, so that Kenyans can forget the problem we are currently experiencing in terms of leadership, in terms of corruption, in terms of misuse of people's rights. This is why speaking in Kipipiri today, I feel honored. Because watu hawezi kukubali watoto wao waendelee kuuawa. Bwana Yesu alimwaga damu, and we celebrate him.
And on a sad note, a security guard at Arambi Khalisa Primary School in Nakuru East has been killed after being attacked by unknown assailants during the night. The body of the guard, identified as Joseph Onyango, was discovered early this morning, dumped inside one of the classrooms, prompting the temporary suspension of learning activities at the school. According to staff members, several offices within the school were also broken into during the incident. Meanwhile, detectives have launched investigations to establish the circumstances surrounding the murder and to identify those responsible.
Yeye tu amekuwa akinisimamia tu na hii kazi yake. Kwa anakuja tu akipata mshahara hii shule, ananini hata saa zingine anakopa shule, ananilipia fees mpaka nikamaliza. Sasa yeye alikuwa anaendelea kulipia brother yangu fees mwenye ako form 4 Kenyatta. Ndio anamaliza hii mwaka. Everything ni amekuwa amenishughulikia full time.
This is a big shock to the school because there's nothing in the school, and I want to pray that the police have take very swift investigations to apprehend the culprits who are behind these incidents.
The incident was not a targeted thing because the office was broken into and the scene is being analyzed to confirm what might have been stolen from the office.
The President William Ruto has called on young people across the country to make proper use of government programs aimed at empowering them economically, emphasizing that such initiatives are key to self-reliance and national economic growth. Speaking during the launch of the second phase of the disbursement of seed capital under the government's youth empowerment program known as Nyota in Eldoret, President Ruto urged beneficiaries to use the funds for their intended purposes, particularly particularly in starting and expanding small businesses. The president cautioned against the misuse of the funds, noting that such actions would undermine government efforts to reduce unemployment among the youth. He further emphasized the importance of financial discipline, innovation, and hard work to ensure the sustainability of supported projects.
Kazi yenu ni ya muhimu sana kwa serikali ya Kenya, kwa wazazi wenu na kwenu ninyi wenyewe kama vijana wa taifa letu la Kenya. Mimi nataka niseme kwanza kwa kila mmoja wenu, pongezi. Tulikuwa na watu walio tafuta nafasi hii. Mumesikia hapa tulikuwa na watu 88,000. Lakini wale wamehitimu na kufika hapa ni watu 9,500. You people who are sitting here, I want to say congratulations to each and every one of you.
Residents of Kwale County continue to face difficulties accessing healthcare services following a nationwide strike by clinical officers. In many health facilities across the county, patients are being turned away without receiving treatment, while others are forced to seek medical services from private hospitals. However, many residents say they cannot afford the high cost of treatment in private facilities. The ongoing strike has significantly disrupted the delivery of essential healthcare services, leaving many residents stranded and raising concerns over access to medical care.
Bachusi kwa huduma ya kuangaliwa mwili wangu. Sasa kumbe madaktari wamegoma na ikawa sasa hakuna mpaka saa hii. Nikarudia leo, nimeingia asubuhi, nimepata bado hakuna madaktari. Sasa huduma ni chini sana, hata wengine wagonjwa wako hapa wengi. Wengine wamehangaika, wengine wameenda nyumbani. Pia ukiangalia niko hapa tunangojea tu daktari mwenye atakuwa na roho safi ya kuja hudumia watu. Mungu amsaidie tu. Sasa bado tunangojea, hakuna huduma kabisa. Tunasikia madaktari wamegoma karibu sasa, hii ni wiki ya 3.
Nimetoka Msangatamu kuja hospitali Kwale kuleta mwanangu kuangaliwa mbavu na kifua. Lakini nilipofika hapa nikaulizia wenzangu hapa, wakaniambia kuna mgomo madaktari. Hasa yaliumisha kichwa kwa sababu gani? Kwenye nimetoka ni mbali, nimetumia fare shilingi 400 na sasa nitafuta 400 nyingine nirudi nyumbani. So naomba serikali utuangalilie madaktari wetu tupate usaidizi kwa sababu hao ni kama ndo tegemezo letu.
And on a similar story, Health Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale has announced the suspension of contracts for foreign doctors from outside the East African community working in Kenya. The move follows investigations conducted by the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Council, KMPDC, which revealed that some foreign doctors were being hired on significantly lower pay compared to the contractual terms applied to Kenyan doctors. The Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union, KMPDU, has welcomed the decision, saying many qualified local doctors remain unemployed and are often overlooked by employers, especially in private hospitals. The decision is expected to prioritize local medical professionals while addressing concerns over fairness and employment standards in the health sector.
We are not renewing the license of foreign doctors. And I have given instructions, particularly, number 1, foreign doctors, but those from within the East African community are not affected. We will only allow a foreign doctor to practice in our country if that foreign doctor has a specialty that is not found in our country.
The era of treating doctors as cheap, disposable labor is over. That over the past 4 years, more than 3,000 foreign general practitioners have been licensed to practice in Kenya. While KMPDU generally recognizes the value of international cooperation and skill exchange, we must confront an uncomfortable truth. Many of these practitioners are not recruited to address the genuine skill gaps that exist in the country. Instead, they are deliberately targeted by certain private hospitals as vulnerable workforce to be exploited. By paying them wages below the stipulated SRC rates, by paying them low wages below what has been negotiated in collective bargaining agreement, these facilities have institutionalized a system we can only describe as modern-day slavery.
Anxiety is mounting among supporters of the United Democratic Alliance UDA party in Nakuru County ahead of the party's grassroots elections scheduled for Monday, January 10th, 2026. The concern stemmed from allegations of possible interference in the process by national party officials, raising fears of the credibility of the exercise. UDA senatorial aspirant Felicitas Malatit has strongly warned against intimidation and abuse of power within the party. She also called on party leaders to ensure free and fair elections in order to strengthen party unity ahead of the 2027 general elections. Malatit also cautioned against any actions that could divide UDA supporters and weaken the party's position, especially at a time when opposition parties are gaining support in the county.
The only concern that we have is that there are some party officials who are feeling the entitlement of the party. And that one, we say it is not acceptable. This is a party which is a respectable party, a party which exercises democratic rights to every person, regardless of where you come from, regardless of who you are. And that is what we want to say, that let the party officials allow this process to take place seamlessly and fairly without any interference. Nobody is a referee of this party. The referees are the electorates. They are the ones to choose their leaders who they choose, and they know that this is the right person.
That story brings JKS edition to a break. We're coming back. Current party and seek nomination through ODM's internal party primaries, where he would compete with other aspirants interested in the seat. Ndolo and his allies have also accused some ODM leaders of attacking the party's Secretary General Edwin Sifuna. They also warned that they will not allow continued criticism or political attacks directed to Sifuna. The remarks highlight a growing internal debate within ODM as the party positions itself ahead of the 2027 general election.
Hapana 19 na 12 ile ya football. Mmesikia? Yeah. Kwa sababu hatutaki tena, kama William anasema yes, he is a co-founder. Kama kweli anasema atasaidia ODM. We William, kuja nomination. Upambane. Pambana na Oburu, pambana na James Orengo, pambana tena Sifuna, kijana naye anatosha. Kwa sababu hata wana sasa hivi wanafuatafuata Sifuna, kupiga Sifuna. Hatutakubali.
In democracy, we want competition whereby UDA ikisimamishe yake, ODM isimamishe. Kama wanasema ODM UDA iko 17% ya Kenya, then it means iko bure. Sababu ODM iko mwa, iko 24. Sasa utakuaje wewe na 24 na tena wewe ni moto kubwa, tena unaenda kusindikisha moto ndogo.
ODM is a government in waiting. ODM is a government in waiting. We just want to show Kenyans. Baba alisema stabilize this government. What the four expert will do is what we will tell Kenyans out there, that when we are in the government, the opportunity that we are given, hiyo kidogo, hii tulifanya, hii tulifanya.
And a story similar to ODM's party, tensions continue to escalate within the Orange Democratic Movement ODM as sharp exchanges persist among party leaders and members. Budalangi Member of Parliament Rafael Wanjala has now called on the party leader Oburu Odinga to convene a delegates meeting to resolve the internal wrangles for the sake of strengthening the party. Speaking in Budalangi constituency during the official opening of 4 classrooms at Mundere Primary School, Wanjala criticized some leaders who he accused of destabilizing the party following the death of Raila Odinga. He urged party leader Oburu Odinga to take decisive steps to address and resolve the disputes. Wanjala also defended ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna against accusations from some party leaders, maintaining that Sifuna's concerns are legitimate and should be respected. The development is underlying growing divisions within ODM as the party seeks unity moving forward.
Maarufu mkubwa, lakini watu wachache wasiharibu chama, wanataka kuchukua shortcuts. Tunataka kusema kama iko maneno, tunataka sasa bwana daktari Oburu Odinga aite sasa National Delegate Conference, watu tuongee, tusuluhishe yale maneno yako. Hatutaki Sifuna au ataki, kwa sababu hayo maswali Sifuna anauliza ni yale aliuliza hata kama baba bado ako mzima. Na pia watu wajiulize kwa nini wabunge wa Luhya wamenyamaza. Hawajanyamaza eti ni wajinga, wamenyamaza kwa sababu wanajua wanafanya nini. Chama cha ODM ni chama cha Wakenya.
The Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission (IEBC) has joined hands with various stakeholders in Turkana County to sensitize the public on voter registration and provide updates on preparations for the upcoming general elections. During the meeting, the Commission urged young people to actively register as voters by obtaining national IDs, noting that a large number of youth have not yet collected their identification cards. Local residents called on the IEBC to intensify voter education campaigns as the country approaches the general election. They also argued a government to increase resources, or urged the government to increase the resources for the Commission to enable it to carry out its duties effectively and ensure a smooth electoral process.
Here today to meet with stakeholders in Turkana County, where we invited all the key stakeholders. We have exposed to them where we are at as far as the voter registration targets and enrollments are concerned, and we have agreed together with the people who attended this meeting that there are things that each one of us needs to do in as far as increasing the numbers for the new registrations in the register of the 6 constituencies.
Saa hii tumeambiwa every vote county, na kwa Turkana tumewekwa kama tumefunikwa, tukiambiwa kura zetu asipiti Kainuku.
We do not have voter educators for the PWDs. Most of them are just normal people who do not know, they have not even interacted with people with disabilities.
How is IEBC going to address this issue of reckless talking? Because already they are saying that there is a hierarchy of
IDs ziko na vijana hawachukui IDs. We are reliably informed that the IDs are lying either at Huduma centers or at the chief's camps.
We can only improve on our voter registration with the support and mobilization of various segments of the society.
Watoto wa Gen Z mwende mregister kura. Hivyo ndio mtaamua vile nchi itaenda. Mkikaa nyumbani wale wazee mnasema watarudi tu because
Just joining us now, right now, remember you're watching JKS Thursdays and this is EBN TV, and in such a sad story and not a satisfying one, a Form 3 student has suffered severe life-threatening burns after catching fire in the house where he was sleeping in Katataini Village, Kirinyaga East Sub-County. According to the family, the student Cliff Masharia had mental health challenges and was taken to level 5 hospital in Kirinyaga for treatment. His uncle, Johnston Nyaga, said that Cliff spent the entire day with his father, and after taking his evening medication, everyone went to sleep. Nyaga added that the family and community tried to extinguish the fire, but the flames quickly overwhelmed them. Cliff's condition remains critical as he receives care at the hospital.
Siku ilipofika, babake akamfungia, babake anakaa pande ile mwisho wa Isham. Babake akamfungia na kaenda. So kijana tuna suspect pia kulikuwa na stima huko, maybe alitampa na stima. Ni tu ni my brother ndio nimesikia ameniamsha asubuhi, hata sikusikia moto. Akaniamsha akaniambia kuja twende polisi tukapia report kijana wangu ameilihaga ni moto. Ni my uncle alikuwa anapita hivyo harakati shambani hivyo kuangalia security na nini, ndiye akaona moto kwa niba, kabidi ameruka akakuja akaamsha auntie. Lakini kwa hiyo wakati moto ilikuwa imezidi kiwango. So akajaribu akapata kijana alikuwa suffocate ndani, moto ilikuwa kubwa. Ni kama kijana alikuwa anacheza na asima. Ndio huyo kijana inasemekana kichwa yake ilikuwa na shida na alikuwa anatumia.
Women and youth leaders from the coastal region have welcomed the recently formed alliance Umwega Weho, meaning Our Unity, which aims to bring together 9 Mijikenda communities. And according to the alliance members, the initiative is a model effort intended to strengthen unity and cohesion while promoting inclusive leadership and equitable development across all areas of the region. The leaders added that the alliance could help resolve long-standing divisions within the communities by providing a platform to advocate for the rights and address critical needs. They further stated that the initiative comes at a time when the coastal region, despite its abundant resources, has historically been economically marginalized, making community-driven unity and development especially important.
Tumaini sana kuhusu mwanzo huu ya kwamba mwanamke sasa wa Kimijikenda naye atapata nafasi ya kuji-express politically, ya kuweza pia kutoa mchango wake katika maendeleo ya kijamii na hata ya kiuchumi katika taifa hili, ya kwamba pia atapata nafasi sawia na msichana yoyote mwingine kule nchini Kenya na hata nje.
Iko hapa imelala. Ukiangalia vile tuko na madini mengi sana, lakini viongozi ambao wamekuwa wakisema ama wakijiita tunasema ni re-owned, wao ndo wanasema wanawakilishi wa Mijikenda, wanapofika kwenye masuala haya development wanajiangalia wao na sekta kidogo sana ama familia zao.
Sisi kwa sisi tumeanza kupingana. Wengine wakitaka pia waapishwe kuwa wanataka kuwa wasemaji wa Mijikenda. Hatuwezi tukawa na wasemaji wa Mijikenda wawili ama watatu. Msemaji ni lazima awe mmoja. Kwa sababu wa Mijikenda tunapoungana, hiyo sasa naambiwa ni mambo ya kisiasa. Tunapoungana watu wanaona kuwa hawa wako nyuma wanataka ku-endorse mwanasiasa fulani. Hatuko hapa katika endorsement ya any political party.
Tension briefly gripped Nyeri town ahead of political rally where Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua was scheduled to address supporters. Reports indicate that 2 rival groups confronted each other for a short time, causing concerns among residents and onlookers. The situation was quickly brought under control, and Gachagua was able to proceed with his address at the rally without further disruption. Speaking earlier in Nairobi, Gachagua reaffirmed his commitment to ensuring that President William Ruto leaves office at the end of his term. He also emphasized the importance of political engagement and mobilization among supporters as the country approaches future electoral cycles. The brief clash highlights the heightened political tensions in parts of the country as leaders mobilize for upcoming campaigns, with security agencies closely monitoring events to prevent escalation.
Nikuwe rais wa Kenya wa 6 katika jamhuri. Mtanichagua? Wangapi wanasema Rigiji anatosha, Rigiji anatosha? Na unajua mimi huyu Kasongo, mimi ndio kiboko yake. Na huyu Kasongo mkinipatia nafasi, nitamkimbiza kama baisikeli ya kuibiwa.
That story from Gachagua brings JKS Thursdays to Asta. But before we go, we want to thank you. We want to appreciate you highly for watching our shows and our programs. This has been JKS Thursday Bulletin, and we've had a special edition on the 65 billion scandal, and this was inside Kenya's 65 or even 65 billion and the biggest real estate deal that we're watching as things go tough. Where will we go as a country? And as things work, where will our shilling, where will our coin grow? And how will we grow as a country? This is JKS, that's this. My name is Jeffrey Kimaiyu Somba, JKS. My sign language interpreter has been Laura Omondi. From everyone, audience, and to all that has made this bulletin a success, we want to wish you a good night. May God bless you.